I'm giving you the benefit of the doubt that you are on top of your stuff, right? You are doing everything with the factory, boom, boom, boom. You're not going away for a week in the middle to the cabin. You're not taking a vacation to Miami. This is hard work. You can get it done. All right, YouTube, what's poppin'? I think one of the biggest problems that plagues all business industries, but really specifically ours, is uncertainty. And the reason is, as a contract manufacturer, you get so many different projects. Making a computer mouse, making a glass, not that we make this, but, or a book, or this pad, right? Or they all take different timelines. They all have different prices. So when people ask questions like, how long does it take to get a product to market? Or how much does it cost to take a product to market? The answer is always, it depends, right? It depends what the product is. But that answer sucks. So today I'm here hoping to cut through the bullshit and give you some answers that can help you actually plan for your timeline today and in the future, some other questions that you might be asking. I'm going to give examples from a few different types of industries, what kinds of timelines you can expect, and then I'm going to summarize all of that together into what I think is a good, general consensus of how long something's going to take to get to market. Let's start stuff off with something easy, right? Let's say a shirt. Again, it's not a great example because a shirt is not something we're going to make. When it comes to textiles, we always want to have as complex of a project as possible, to make it worth our time as a company, because we're problem solvers. We can solve these big problems, but also to solve problems for our customers, right? If you want to make a shirt, Alibaba might be the way to go. But just to give you an example. So let's assume that you have your patterns or your design done, right? Your graphics or whatever you want to put on the shirt, everything's done. I think that it's reasonable to get a prototype done in 2 rounds. And I like to say this for everything. People say, I make a prototype, why isn't it perfect on the first try? Because what's perfect on the first try? Really nothing. How do you get something perfect on the first try? I don't know if that's really possible. Surely it happens, but that's an outlier. More than 2 times, though, should also be an outlier, right? You should get a prototype, you should fix it up, and then you should get a pre-production prototype that you're signing off on, stamping, and moving into production. So we're going to make the assumption that you're working with a company that can handle, the restriction or the boundaries of being able to do that. First sample, you're probably going to be talking to the factory back and forth. You're going to be, getting your design. They're going to have questions for you. What do you want for the prototype? How many prototypes? How many SKUs? What are the sizes? How many colors, right? Or the SKU or different logo or whatever, right? There's a lot of different things, but I would say the first part, if you don't use somebody like a contract manufacturer, is vetting the factory. That will come with the questions, going back and forth, figuring everything out, and I'd like to put that between 2 weeks and a month is reasonable. Then the sampling part. You finished all that stuff. The first sample can take anywhere, again, from a week, depending on the simplicity of the project, to a month, I would say. For a textile, if it's over a month, people don't know what they're doing, or your files aren't good. So, DFM, which is design for manufacturability, vetting the factory and sampling, you're at 1 to 2 months. 1 being an absolute minimum, 2 being what I think is acceptable, and anything more than 2, you don't have a good team put together. So I would recommend reevaluating, who you're working with and what you have done. So sampling, and then another round of sample, like I said, for the pre-production prototype. With that all in, pre-production should be 2 to 3 months where you're stamping and approving for production, where all of the quality control variables have been figured out, where everything is all sorted and you're ready to put in the PO for mass production, 2 to 3 months. For production, again, it depends, which sucks, but I'm gonna guess that your first order is between 1 and 5,000 units. And I would say that you're probably looking at 1 month minimum to 2 months maximum. But now we've kind of, we have a range here to get your first run of production done, 4 or 5 months, right? 4 or 5 months, I think is actually quite safe. But again, I'm giving you the benefit of the doubt that you are on top of your stuff, right? You are doing everything with the factory, boom, boom, boom. You're not going away for a week in the middle to the cabin. You're not taking a vacation to Miami. This is hard work, 4, 5, 6 months, you can get it done. That should be your goal. That should be what you're shooting for. Now, moving from a relatively simple and not as time consuming industry like textiles, let's move into something more complex like tech, right? So let's use just consumer electronics. Again, I'm going to assume that you have design files, that you have engineering files, that you have your circuit board files. I'll give you an example of if you don't too, because I know a lot of people are starting from a napkin. There's nothing wrong with that. It just needs to be classified as something completely different. So you have everything done. You're looking at a similar vetting process, but when you're making a shirt, you're vetting a factory. When you're making, an Internet of Things or a consumer electronic product, you have a lot of variables, a lot of components, right? You have a plastic housing, you have the circuit board, you have to get ICs. In my career, what is the biggest IC chip shortage I've ever seen. The lead times are ridiculous. We have clients that are pre-ordering components for their circuit boards a year in advance right now, right? That's unheard of. Often you can find stuff stock, but normally in the past it would be like 4 to 8 weeks, would be too long. Now a year seems almost normal for some of those harder to get, and also you're paying a lot more. So you have all of these different suppliers within your supply chain. So your factory vetting, that first process, no longer takes 2 weeks. It takes 6 weeks or 8 weeks, right? 1.5, 2 months probably of nailing every single piece down. We use a method called the component control method, where we break all the components up. If you've seen my videos, you've seen me talk about this. Break all the components up and work with specialist factories for each component. That takes time. People want stuff to happen overnight, but it's just not the reality. So you figure all that out. Next step is the same step. And I'm trying to minimize how many steps are in this process so that you can have a better grip, which will lead to the end, what I think people should shoot for. DFM modifications. Again, bigger supply chain, more people to work with. You're not working with 2 weeks anymore, right? You're working with a month. Next process, sampling. And again, what you're gonna see is with more members of the supply chain, with a more complex project, you're gonna see these times doubling. And it's just because it's more complex. There's more moving pieces, there's more people involved. Again, double it. Pre-production, double it. And mass production, actually don't need to double. So the one difference between electronics and textiles in this example would be tooling. So before mass production, you need to do like plastic injection tooling, assuming that your outer casing is made out of plastic. If it's made out of metal, you still need to do tooling, and that takes time, right? That can take a month or 2 months as well. Pre-production, moving in, doing the sample, getting the sample out of the mold and stamping off on that, then moving into mass production. Again, assuming a quantity of 1,000 to 5,000 pieces, units, you're probably looking at 2 to 3 months. Overall, right, adding all that up, you're looking at between, instead of 4, 5, 6 months, you're looking at 6 as being an absolute masterpiece, and probably 9 to 12 being more realistic. Now, I never want to say 12. I want to get stuff done in 4 to 6 months, right? That gets your product out the door quicker. You make more money. Your customer gets his product sooner. And ultimately, Morpho and all of the factories in the supply chain make more money. So the target's always 6. But speaking, from many years of experience, doing hundreds and hundreds of projects, under a year is what you should consider reasonable. Too many people are launching pre-order style campaigns, whether it's crowdfunding or off their own site, saying they're going to deliver soon, overcommitting and under-delivering. A year gives you a lot of time. And again, assuming that you have the design and all these files done. If you don't, you're probably adding another 4 months. I'll give it 2, 3 or 4 months, again, depending on who you're working with. So I know there's a lot of numbers getting thrown around here. It's probably tough to add it up. I'll summarize. But the reason it's tough is because of how many variables there are. So to summarize the 3 different things that I've said, textiles, I think you can get your first run of mass production done in 4, 5, or 6 months, right? Shoot for 4, expect 6. A tech project where you have everything designed and prepared, aim for 6, expect a year. And when you have nothing designed, we recently had a customer called Upspec, right? They did a screen that fits on top of an Xbox that basically turns your Xbox into like a portable laptop. I think from start to finish for the first order, that was 9 months, including us designing. They had preliminary design files, but they didn't get too deep. And so we finished up the design, we developed, we did all of the steps that I said, and we got done in 9 months. So 4 or 5 for textiles, 6 to 9 for a tech product that is totally prepared, and 9 to 12 for a project that you're starting from napkin. Again, I'm just trying to be honest, right? This is usually what happens because we're not perfect creatures, right? People go on vacations. People get sick. Hiccups happen, speed bumps happen. They're to be expected. But if I can give you the best, most honest expectation, while I aim for 4 to 6 months on all projects, those different breakdowns are probably more likely to be a reality. Happy to answer any questions and clear up anything that was uncertain. Otherwise, have a good one. Peace.